last few years, my Turo fleet has changed a lot. Between cars getting totaled, cars getting sold, and of course us adding new vehicles, there has been a lot of changes in a relatively short period of time. And so in this video, I am actually going to be doing a fleet update. I'm going to be breaking down my entire fleet, but also giving my honest thoughts on how these vehicles are in my fleet and ultimately how they perform. So let's get started. But before we dive into that, I do want to let you guys know that our Memorial Day sale is currently going on, and it's going to be running through May 27th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And so if you guys want to get a steep discount on the course, you can use the code MEMORIALDAY175 to get $175 off. The link is down in the description below. The Car Sharing Masterclass is an in-depth course that teaches you every single thing that you need to know about starting and scaling a car sharing fleet with the exact same business model that I use. We literally teach you everything from how to identify which cars to buy, how to get them for below market value, how to streamline your operations, how to navigate damage claims and total losses, how to go into co-hosting, direct rentals, and of course Turo. There are tons of documents and resources, many of which we had built by professionals like lawyers, for example, and so much more. The best part is that whenever you sign up for the Car Sharing Masterclass, you get lifetime access to not only the course, but our private Discord and our monthly Zoom calls as well. And this coming August, we have a 3.0 version of the course, which means that if you buy it today at $175 off, you will automatically be upgraded to the 3.0 this coming August, which is going to come with major changes, including a section on direct rentals, a revamped community, and more documents and resources than ever. Again, this sale ends on May 27th, so don't miss out and use the code MEMORIALDAY175 to get $175 off. The link is down in the description below. Now, unlike most of my videos, which are actually scripted and I really think about what I'm going to say before I begin recording, this is going to be a bit different, and I'm going to be working through my Turo vehicle list on my computer right here, and we're just going to be going vehicle by vehicle. None of this is scripted, so all of this is my true feelings. Now, for the sake of time and to keep this video moving, I'm going to be clumping my cars based off of make and model, so if vehicles are the same make, they're going to be talked about at the same time. So first up, I have my 2013 BMW 3 Series, and this is a relatively new addition to the fleet. We just got it in the last couple of months, and it's been performing really well. It is by no means a top performer, and I'm going to be honest, whenever we first got it, it did have a couple of issues that we didn't catch until after it went out on its first couple of rentals. We had an issue when we first got the car where the battery terminals would kind of jiggle themselves off after extended driving, which would cause the car to die at an intersection or a stop sign. This happened on the first rental with the vehicle. The guest obviously was not happy. He left us a bad review, and it is never a good thing to have a bad review on the very first rental. And I do think that this kind of set the car back for the first few weeks and really the first handful of rentals. But now that we've had a number of 5-star reviews since then, the car seems as though it's finally beginning to live up to its full potential. We bought this car for $5,300, which I think is a steal of a deal. And whenever we initially got it, it just needed some minor things, and we had it on Turo with just a couple $100 of work. But there is a big caveat here, and that is that older BMWs are prone to having their timing chains go out. So we bought this knowing that at some point, sooner than later, we will need to do that timing chain work, which can be about $1,200 through a connection that my husband HP has. The BMW is a car that I've been wanting for a long time, but HP has been very skeptical of, so I'm excited that we finally have one in our fleet, and it's kind of too early to tell how this will perform long term, but I can say short term, it's consistently rented out. Guests generally have good things to say about it, and I personally really like it. But the timing chain is definitely something to keep in mind if you're looking to buy a BMW yourself. Next, we have our two Ford Escapes. We have a 2008 and a 2012 Ford Escape. Both of them are the limited trim, and both of them do extremely well. My 2008 Ford Escape is one of the oldest cars that we have in our Turo fleet, and it is really starting to rack up in mileage. In our 2012 Ford Escape, we got last year, and it has been performing extremely well. We bought both of them, believe it or not, for around $4,500. The 2008 being purchased in like 2018, 2019. And so these cars have made their money back time and time again. And believe it or not, with the Ford Escape specifically, we probably get asked more than any other vehicle if we're willing to sell it. People just really like these cars. They're roomy, but they don't feel too big. They're reliable, and they get decent gas mileage, especially considering the size. Now, unfortunately, with the Ford Escape, the newer body styles just generally aren't good buys because of engine issues. So this is not a car that I would currently recommend buying for your fleet, because the difference between a 2012 and a 2013 option are massive. But if you were looking to buy a car for yourself or possibly for direct rentals, I think an older 2012 or older Ford Escape is a perfect buy. Just be mindful of the 6-cylinder versus the 4-cylinder because the maintenance can be quite a bit different depending on which one you purchase. Next is my 2011 Ford Fiesta. Now, this is a car that I would have never purchased because of the fact that these cars are prone to major transmission problems, but we actually purchased this car for about $4,200 a number of years ago, and we purchased it right after the transmission had been replaced. As a result, this car has been pretty bulletproof. It's kind of your basic generic car. It's nothing to write home about. It's cloth seats. It's green, so some guests feel a little bit mixed about it, but it performs really solidly. In fact, right now it is on an extended rental, and it has been with the same guest since January. This is a car that I like, and if I could go back in time and buy this car again, I would absolutely do it, but we will not be adding any more Fiestas to our fleet because of the transmission problems. Next is my 2011 Ford Focus. Now, at one point in time, we had about 4 or 5 Ford Focuses in our fleet, but all of them have either been sold or totaled, and this is the only Ford Focus that we have left. Now, similar to the Ford Fiesta, newer Ford Focuses just don't have the same reliability, and as a result, we are no longer adding any Ford Focuses to our fleet, but this 2011 one has performed really well. We bought it for about $45,000 to $5,000, and it is a solid performer. It definitely isn't a looker. It's nothing special. Similar to the Fiesta, it's just kind of your basic vehicle, but it performs well. It's cheap to rent, and so guests don't mind it. This is just an average performer in my fleet. It has solid reliability. It's a consistent performer, but it's nothing amazing either. Next is my 2012 Ford Fusion. This is another one that has been out on an extended rental for a pretty long time. In fact, across my fleet, the Ford Fusion, for whatever reason, attracts more extended rentals than any other vehicle, and it is consistently out for long periods of time. This is a car that we've recently replaced the entire interior with really high-end leather seat covers. And by high-end, I mean about $200 to $300 cost, so definitely nothing ridiculous, but nothing cheap either. And after we did that, guests started appreciating this car a lot more because prior to the seat covers, the seats were a bit rough in this one. Similar to the Fiesta and the Ford Focus, the Ford Fusion does have some transmission problems. This is actually the second Ford Fusion that we've owned, and this one has had a bit of issues here and there, so we probably wouldn't buy another Ford Fusion. But if this is something that you feel comfortable working on yourself, or you have a plug with a good affordable mechanic, this could be a potentially good buy. Next is my 2010 Honda Fit. This is such a strong, consistent performer in my fleet. I've had this car for a number of years now. In fact, I documented it on my vlog channel with my husband HP whenever we got this car. Not only has this car been an extremely good performer, but it is insanely reliable as well. And this car has not had any serious repairs this entire time other than just your typical maintenance that you would need with a vehicle. Not only that, but it is consistently rented out. In fact, it does so well that we recently got it repainted. This is a car that I would buy 10 times over, and I continuously look for Honda Fits. The problem is they are very expensive, and at $5,600, I think that this car is a steal of a deal, but at $8,000 or $9,000, I think it becomes a bit too expensive, and in my market at least, you can't really find good Turo qualifying Honda Fits for less than about $8,000. This is a car that I would highly recommend if you can buy for the right price. Guests like it performs well, and it is extremely reliable. The next ones are my 2 Honda Odysseys. I have a brown 2020 Honda Odyssey Elite, and I have a white Honda Odyssey EXL. We got the brown one right before Christmas in 2024, and we actually just purchased the white one back in April. Both of these cars were purchased with a few different thoughts in mind. Number one, we wanted to have an 8-seater vehicle because of the fact that our Lincoln doesn't have 8 seats, and we felt like there was demand in our market for these 8 seats. But secondly, the Honda Odyssey qualifies for Section 179, and so from a tax play, we thought that this would be a good purchase. The brown one qualified for the 2024 taxes, while our white one will be applied to 2025. We bought both of these cars for about $30,000. The Elite, which is the higher trim one, has about 80,000 miles at the time of purchase, while the white one, which is the lower trim, had about 35,000 miles. Next is my Hyundai Elantras. I have a 2015 Hyundai Elantra and a 2017 Hyundai Elantra. I got the 2015 Hyundai Elantra back in 2021. We bought the 2017 one back this February, and both of these cars perform really well. Now, one thing about all of the Hyundais that I own, including these two, is that we only buy Hyundais that qualify for the Hyundai Rod Bearing Warranty Extension, which is basically saying that these engines are prone to go bad, and the warranty extension offers an unlimited warranty to get that engine replaced as long as it was caused by a rod bearing issue, which is very, very common with these cars. So we basically purchase our Hyundais with having the safety net in mind. In and both our 2015 and our 2017 Elantras are no exception. I really like both of these cars. The 2017 Elantra is newer, so I do like that one a bit better, and guests do as well. But both of these cars have been consistent performers. I think that if you are someone who's looking to buy an Elantra, I think that these are great purchases, and you can generally purchase them anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 for a variety of year and mileage. Next is my two Hyundai Sonatas. We have a 2011 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid and a 2013 Hyundai Sonata. We've had both these cars for many years. Both also qualify for the rod bearing extension, and the 2013 Hyundai Sonata has actually had a new engine under this extension warranty. Similar to the Honda Fit, we actually got our Hyundai Sonata repainted a couple of years ago, and it performs really well. Both of these cars are cars that I would buy over and over again. They perform very well. With the Hyundai warranty extension, they become no-brainers, and guests really like these cars. Next, we have our 2013 Hyundai Tucson. Now, this is actually the third Hyundai Tucson in our fleet. Our other two were totaled, but I'm extremely familiar with Hyundai Tucsons because not only have we owned 3 of them, but my sister has one as well. These are extremely solid cars. I think from a smaller SUV standpoint, there is very few cars that are as good of a bang for your buck as the Hyundai Tucson. For us, ours is a limited, so it does feature a panoramic moonroof, leather seats, as well as a slew of other features as well. Next, we have our 2015 Kia Rio. This is a car that we purchased right smack dab in the pandemic. I think it was actually our first pandemic purchase. This car has historically been a bit shoddy with maintenance. Whenever we first bought it, it had a ton of issues with its engine, but we ended up getting those issues fixed, and the car has been pretty solid for a couple of years now. The interior was really rough because it was a tan interior, but in the last couple of months, we actually replaced the interior with leather interior, and not only does the car look significantly better now, but guests actually like the car a lot more. For some reason, Kia is a brand that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with. Even though I have a ton of Hyundais in my fleet, and Kia and Hyundais are basically one and the same, I don't have the same love for Kias, but I am trying to get over that, and all in all, I think that Kias can be solid cars. Similar to Hyundais, if you buy a Kia, you should make sure that it qualifies for the rod bearing extension warranty. Funny enough, our Kia actually doesn't qualify for that because we bought it before we were aware of it. But nonetheless, I think that this can be a solid car. And generally speaking, you can buy Kias for pretty cheap. Next, we have the newest addition to our fleet, our 2015 Kia Soul. Now, as I'm recording this car is actually out on its very first rental, so it is too early to tell how this car will perform, but we bought this car for $4,500 and it has 107,000 miles on it, and it does have that rod-bearing warranty extension. Now, I really, really love this car. One thing about me is that I really love tan vehicles. I love earth tone cars. I think they look so good. And I think that this Kia Soul just looks incredibly cool. Now, this car is far too early to tell how it will perform or if I recommend this vehicle, so stay tuned. Next, we have my 2017 Lincoln MKC, and this is actually the only vehicle in my fleet that I do not own, and that's, I guess, technically co-hosted. Now, to give you a brief backstory on this car, my dad actually bought this Lincoln MKC a number of years ago, and the engine actually blew with only 32,000 miles on the car, and he ended up having to pay $6,000 to get this engine replaced. Well, at the time that he had to get the engine replaced, he was already considering buying a different car because he really was not happy with the MKC. You see, my sister has 2 very young girls, and my dad and stepmom watch my nieces quite often, and the fact is the MKC backseat just leaves a lot to be desired. And so what my dad decided to do is he ended up buying a 3-row Cadillac, and then he ended up giving this Lincoln MKC to HP and I to manage on Turo so that he can try to recoup the cost of his new engine. So we manage the car for him, we give him all the money it makes, and that's basically the arrangement. Once he ends up paying off his engine, we might end up buying the car from him. We haven't really decided, but all in all, this MKC does pretty well. The problem that I have with the MKC is that the MKC is a significantly more expensive than the Hyundai Tucson, but it actually doesn't perform that much better. It performs probably 20% better than the Hyundai Tucson, even though it is about 3 to 4 times the price. Now, the odd thing about the Lincoln MKC is we have one renter that has been renting it for weeks at a time since basically we got it, and so this car performs extremely well when this guest has it. Because from this guest alone, we can sometimes make $1,400 to $1,500 a month from this car. This car has done well. I like the vehicle, but if I didn't get this car for my dad, I wouldn't buy one for myself in our own fleet. And even with being able to buy it from my dad, I'm still a bit undecided if I want to actually do that. So this is all in all a car that I probably would not recommend buying, even though all things considered, it does perform pretty well. Also, the fact that it needed a brand new engine at 32,000 miles definitely leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Next, we have our Lincoln Navigator. Now, we got this car back in 2023. It was our first real financed vehicle for our fleet, though I guess technically we did finance our Maserati Ghibli a number of years ago. But the reason why we got the Lincoln Navigator is for tax reasons. We thought that adding an XL SUV would be a good purchase, and all in all, this car has performed really well. Now, in the first year of ownership with this car, it did have some pretty costly issues. It had an odometer issue that cost about $1,000 to fix, and it also had a major transmission problem that cost us about $2,500 to fix, and we were able to fix it through HP's friend, so we actually got that for a discount. But all in all, this car performs extremely well, so even with those repairs in mind, I'm still happy with this vehicle. People really like this car because it's very nice, it has a high perceived value, it has 7 seats, it's great for road trips, and it is the long boy version, so it is really great because it has a ton of trunk space. Similar to the Honda Odysseys, this car is a very airport delivery heavy vehicle, so that does make it a bit of a pain. This is a car that I probably would buy again if I could go back in time, but I probably won't buy another one. Next, we have our Mazda 2s. We have 3 Mazda 2s in our fleet, a 2011 green Mazda 2, 2012 blue one, and a 2013 white one. I really like these cars. I think that they're kind of a Toyota Yaris, but cheaper, and they typically have more features than a Toyota Yaris, and generally these cars have been extremely reliable. They're nothing to write home about. They're pretty simple, but guests like them because they're cheap. This is a car that I would recommend 10 out of 10 times, especially if you can get one at the right price. Next is my 2011 Mazda 3. Now, at one point, we had 3 Mazda 3s. Now we only have 2, and this is a car that I think is really solid. The problem with Mazda 3s is they are prone to ECM issues, which can be very costly. In fact, we've dealt with ECM issues with a number of Mazdas that we've owned, so at this point, we have a pretty good way to navigate it, but this can definitely be an issue if you buy this car at the wrong price. The positive is that Mazda 3s are extremely cheap to purchase. In fact, we purchased all of our Mazda 3s for about $4,000. And so if you can purchase it at the right price, with it in mind that you may have a $1,000 repair later on down the road, this is a car that can be definitely worth it. Next, we have our 2013 Mazda 5. Now, this is a car that I really like. This is actually the updated body style, so it's a pretty cool looking car in my opinion. And shortly after we bought it, we actually replaced the entire interior with leather, which I think really elevated the car. This is a car that's a bit awkward because technically it is a minivan and it does fit 6 people, but it is very small. Some people do rent this car expecting it to be more like a Honda Odyssey size, and they're a bit surprised to see that it is pretty tiny for a van. But all in all, this car gets solid reviews, it performs well, and this is a car that I would buy again. Next is our Mercedes-Benz C250. Now, this is a car that we've had for a number of years. We purchased it for $6,500 back in 2023. We purchased it with an engine issue in mind, and it turned out that it was just a single loose bolt that ended up solving our entire problem, which was a huge win. Now, the C250, generally speaking, isn't as reliable as the C300 because it's a 4-cylinder instead of a 6-cylinder. So this is a car that we probably would not buy again because it does have sporadic issues here and there. But all in all, this car is one that performs really well. Guests really like it because it is a Mercedes, but its reliability can be spotty, and for that reason, I probably would not recommend buying this car. If you can find an older, like 2013 C300, that could potentially be a better buy. Next, we have a 2014 Mitsubishi Mirage, and I'm smiling because this is a car that we said we would never buy, and we decided to buy it just to test it out because candidly, a lot of people in the car sharing masterclass group have Mitsubishi Mirages, and they've said incredibly good things about them. So we actually bought this car just a couple of months ago. We paid $3,300 for it, and it didn't need anything after we purchased it. It was just ready to go. But unfortunately, within a couple of weeks of owning this car, a guest made the decision to put transmission fluid in the transmission, and she overfilled the CVT transmission fluid, and as a result, she totally killed the transmission. Now, as I'm recording this video, we're going through the process of getting this claim approved through Turo due to guest negligence. So if we have this resolved by the time that this video goes live, I'll include a note here on the screen whether or not that was ruled in our favor. But in a short period of time that it was listed, I did really like it, and I'm hoping that we can get the transmission repaired and get it back up on Turo ASAP. And truthfully, for the price, you really can't beat it. Next, we have our Scion IQ. Funny enough, we actually bought this car at the exact same time we bought our Lincoln Navigator, so we bought our largest and smallest car basically at the same time. This is a car that I felt really conflicted about at the point of purchase because it is very literally the smallest 4-seater car ever produced, and it is very small. And I do think that some guests rent this car not realizing how small it actually is. Now, we bought this car for about $5,000, which in hindsight, I do think that we overpaid for it a bit, but truthfully, it's a really solid performer. Guests like it because it's cheap, and it's actually one of those cars that is consistently extended for sometimes weeks or months at a time. This is a car that I would buy again, even considering the fact that it is extremely niche and very small. But I do think with a car like this, you have to make sure to buy it at the right price because truthfully, if I had to choose between something like a Hyundai Elantra or a Scion IQ, I would choose an Elantra all day long just because it has a much more mass appeal. Next, we have probably my least favorite car in my fleet, and that is a 2013 Smart Car. Now, we bought this car in late 2024, and I'm going to be honest, I am very conflicted about this car, and I'm constantly debating on whether or not I want to sell it. The problem with this car is that it has a dual clutch transmission, but in the Smart Car, it just kind of feels like the car is malfunctioning, and guests definitely feel this way as well. This car also doesn't have power steering, and so whenever you're first driving with it, it almost feels as though something isn't working, but it actually is working exactly as intended. Overall, this car has been pretty reliable ever since we purchased it, but guest perception is just very hit or miss. Fortunately for us, we have a guest who's had it for a number of months now, and so we will most likely be keeping it as long as this guest is interested in extending, but I think that once she returns the car, we may seriously consider selling it. It's actually smaller than the Scion IQ because it's only 2 seats instead of 4, and that size really does make a difference, and you feel like you're exposed on the road. This is a car that if I could go back in time, I would not buy again, and I would not recommend you buying them. Next, we have the shining stars in our fleet, our Toyota Yarises. We have a 2007, 11, 13, and 14 Toyota Yaris in our fleet, and I absolutely love these cars. These cars are so incredibly reliable. I think that there is no car out there that can be beat from a reliability standpoint, and I truly think that from a budget reliable car perspective, the Toyota Yaris will always reign supreme in my opinion. And while the older Toyota Yarises do look a bit dated, I think the newer ones actually look quite good, and I think my 2014 Toyota Yaris looks as good as any other car on the road. Guests like these cars, they rent extremely well. The only downside of these vehicles is that Yarises are generally pretty expensive, and it's hard to find a good one for a good price because they are sold at a premium. But if you are someone who's willing to pay a higher price for a more reliable car, I think this is a really solid bet. Our Yarises performed so well that we actually just recently had our 2014 Yaris repainted, and it's been performing better than ever. And last but not least is my 2011 Volvo S40. I really like this car, and this is probably one of my favorite vehicles in my fleet. I think that it has a really timeless look. I think the interior looks good, and I'm a big fan of Volvos personally. And while our Volvo has actually been extremely reliable, we have heard bad things about Volvos in general, that this is the main reason why we only have the one in our fleet. We got this car for $4,500 a couple of years ago, and it has performed pretty consistently. The bad thing about the Volvo is it's never a top performer, and I think that has a lot to do with like brand perception. I personally think that Volvo is in line with BMW and Mercedes, but I don't think guests see it that same way. And I think as a result, people rent a Mercedes or a BMW because they want the name, they want to be cool, but they just don't do that same thing with the Volvo. And as a result, the Volvo just has never performed at the same level as the Mercedes has, even though I think personally the Volvo is nicer. This is a car that I would buy again, and I would even explore buying more in the future, but I think that you got to be really mindful about maintenance and repairs, and so it's one that I would recommend proceeding with caution with if you want to buy one yourself. So there you guys have it, my entire fleet. I guess we could technically talk about my camper van, which is a van that I bought during the pandemic. I converted, and it has performed extremely well. That is something that I would do 10 times over if given the chance. I just actually recently made a video about this topic. But all in all, this is my fleet, and I am happy with all of the vehicles in my fleet because truth be told, if I didn't like a vehicle, I would just simply sell it. So even the cars that are my least favorite are still ones that I enjoy owning and renting out. Remember that the Memorial Day sale is currently going on until May 27th. You can use the code MEMORIALDAY175 to get $175 off. And like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below, and while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.